with Gyles and Nicola Thorp's with us as well.
Good morning to both of you. Nicola, look at that view.
The wind in the willows, isn't it marvellous?
It's lovely.
Thank you, guys. It's only in West London. It's only about 15 minutes away from the studio, so you're very welcome to come and visit.
Oh, Nicola, lovely.
Thank
What a way
you,
to
darling.
spend a bank holiday.
Let's kick off with another party.
Story
There's
one.
been another party. I mean, what can we say?
Yeah,
another
fresh
one.
Partygate revelations implied Boris instigated one of the number 10 parties he denied attending. News reports suggest that a gathering for Lee Kane, Boris's former director of communications, took place in Downing Street on Friday the 13th of November 2020. That event began with the press office having drinks to round off the week, which I believe is a Downing Street tradition, and I don't know if that's allowed during lockdown or not, but turned into a party after Boris arrived and started pouring drinks for everyone.
Oh, he brought the drinks, apparently.
Gyles, what's your take on this?
Well, his line, and he's going to have a chance this week to set out his stall. He apparently is going to make a statement covering everything. His line is that he was at work and he regarded all these events as work-related events. So at the end of a working day, people get together. They were allowed to be at work. They had a drink. He came into the room. He joined in. That is the line he takes. Now, if you are a supporter of the Prime Minister and feel there are bigger issues at hand, you will go along with that. If, and there are lots of people who feel this way, you can't stand the man, you will take the reverse view, that he is a liar pathologically, he can't even begin to tell the truth, he can't recognise the truth when it's in his face. That's how some people feel. And what's worrying, I think, for him this weekend is two things. One of the law officers, a member of the government who was one of the law officers, resigned about this last week, and a man called Peter Hennessy, who is a constitutional historian, Lord Hennessy, a powerful figure in the Westminster Village. He, and a wise man...
He's a crossbencher as well, isn't he?
Yes.
He's not
He has come out and said, actually, constitutionally, this is unacceptable. So I think it's not easy or good for the Prime Minister this week, but he is the ultimate survivor. He doesn't intend to go, and his line, these were work-related events. I meant no harm. I realise now I was wrong, but I intend to carry on.
Nicola.
I'm so glad we're talking about this as the top story, because I think there's been so much that's happened over the weekend that has been intended to distract the British public from this story. For example, the Rwanda story we're going to cover later. But take yourself back to November 13th, 2020, which is when this party took place. I think we were in our second lockdown. Me personally, I was stuck in London, living on my own. I was really, really struggling with my mental health. I remember calling my mum and saying, I don't know what to do, because if I come up home to Blackpool, I have to stay with you then, possibly for months on end, and won't be able to come down for work or to see friends. And bless her, she said, come home, we just need you to be here. But we panicked so much that we were breaking the rules, that I was putting them into risk, etc., etc. Meanwhile, Boris Johnson's having drinks at the end of a workday. It's so infuriating for me, and I honestly think he has to go. I don't even despise the man. He just lied to people in Parliament. That's not prime ministerial.
Gyles, in terms of someone that's been an MP and has seen how government works, at what point does this position become untenable? At what point do the MPs regularly talk about this kind of...
They do regularly talk about it.
Would you regularly talk about it and then go, you know what? Because you were there with John Major, weren't you?
It's all about survival. All the MPs care about is being re-elected next time. There doesn't have to be an election for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think if he survives this coming week, this event, they will see how the land looks in a year or 18 months. If they don't think he is the person who's going to take them to victory, they'll get shot of him. They are ruthless.
And he will have to go at that point, yeah?
If he loses the confidence of members of Parliament, of his own party, he will have to go.
Because you've got the local elections coming up as well.
The 5th of May looks like a grim day for the Conservatives at the moment. I have a daughter who's standing in the local elections. She goes around. People aren't talking about Partygate. They're not talking about anything. They're not really engaged. I think it's going to be a low turnout on the 5th of May, but it won't be good for the Conservatives. How can it be?
And if it's disastrous, does that make his position untenable, or do you not think?
Adds to this. That just adds to this. Who knows what? John Major, in his day, when there was all this going on, he stood down himself and said, you know, you don't want me? Re-elect me if you do want me. And he was re-elected. I don't think Boris Johnson will try that.
Nicola, more to come back on?
Yeah, I think, you know, I've never voted Tory, but I think John Major did the right thing there. That's somebody who's got decency and integrity, and if Boris Johnson had the same, then I think he would do the same. I would just encourage everybody to make sure you go out and vote. We live in a democracy. It's a wonderful thing. Make sure your voice is heard on May the 5th, 6th.
OK.
Interesting. Let's go on to the next story. This is about the religious leader, Justin Welby, who took it upon himself to use his Easter sermon to say that it was serious ethical questions over sending asylum seekers abroad. And what's this bit? Cannot stand the judgment of God.
Yeah.
Not quite sure
Essentially,
what
he said, he also said the serious ethical questions over sending asylum seekers abroad cannot withstand the judgment
Oh,
of
right,
the Archbishop
got you.
of Canterbury. Yeah.
So do you think it was right for, firstly, the Archbishop to do this speech in his Easter speech? And also, Priti Patel, she fired back, didn't she? She had some things to say.
The Archbishop of Canterbury is the spiritual head of the Church of England. You were both brought up as Catholics. I was brought up as an Anglican. Easter Sunday, I don't know. My feeling is, as the spiritual leader, I would have liked him to address the fundamental question is how can a benevolent God, who he is inviting us to worship and praise, how can he let something like the tragedy of Mariupol, what is happening in Ukraine this very weekend on Easter Sunday, how can he explain that? How can he reconcile the horror and suffering in this world with a good and gracious God? That, for me, is the heart of what the Archbishop should be doing as a spiritual leader. What people now feel is that he actually used this pulpit as an opportunity to make what seemed to be a political point, and the politicians are saying he actually missed the point. The Rwandan plan is to break the smugglers who are bringing people in to reduce the deaths of people crossing the Channel. And don't bring politics into the pulpit, deal with spiritual
But
matters.
then I guess, but then at the same time, I guess, you know, religion, if it's going to evolve, has to deal with the world that's around us.
Absolutely.
Rather than...
But if we at this time
the
are
idea of
going to church and praying, what are we praying for most in the world? Peace in the world.
Yeah.
And what I would ask the Archbishop is not about the detail of whether he likes or doesn't like a particular government policy, but we live in a world where we worship God and have done for thousands of years.
And bring it back to the Bible,
and
maybe.
yet all the horrors that are going on in the world, how do we reconcile that? How do we say that God is good when there is so much evil in the world? There are answers to this. Bishops and archbishops should be sharing those answers with us. That's my view.
I agree to differ on that for me. But, Nicola, your point.
Gyles, I love you to bits, but I could not disagree with you more. I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in God, but I understand that people do. I think that the Archbishop has done a fantastic thing in addressing these issues. The establishment will have you believe that religious leaders, etc., shouldn't be commenting on politics. Keep politics out of football. Keep politics out of schools, out of the church. No, politics is in every part of everyday life, and that is how the establishment win if they tell us that we shouldn't be discussing it. Christianity's entire shtick is about a refugee seeking shelter, and if we as a country, as an Anglican, Church of England country, are turning away refugees to Rwanda, which is a plan that is so abhorrent. I'm not proud to be British at the moment because of this plan. And I think a lot of people are struggling with their own British identity as a result of it. I think it's wonderful that he spoke about this in his sermon. I'm not a Christian, but you know what? I would go to church for him.
OK, thanks, Nicola.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Nicola.